It's a Tuesday night edition of Social Distancing at the Chamber. My name is Garrick Taylor, here for a segment we sometimes call Happy Hour with Hammer, our CEO, Glenn Hammer. Glenn, it never gets old, does it?
It never does.
Glenn, lots to talk about today. Let's start out with a special town hall that you presided over with Senator Martha McSally. Why don't we talk a little bit about what you heard today, but also the special award that was extended to our senator?
The senator has a lifetime rating somewhere in the high 90s with the U.S. Chamber. So she was recognized for the past year's work by the U.S. Chamber with their prestigious Spirit of Enterprise Award. So our good friend Jennings Emmelt from the West Coast, Woodland Hills, California office presented her virtually the award, and the senator graciously accepted it.
Yeah, it was a nice touch. She's a multi-time winner of that award, but it's something that we look to. It's for those elected officials who consistently support policies that promote economic enterprise, and it means a lot.
And one of the comments that Jennings mentioned presenting her the award is that the U.S. Chamber changed its formula a little bit the past year, and they now recognize bipartisanship. If you subtract out the bills that the U.S. Chamber opposes, right. Senator McSally was towards the very top of working across the aisle constructively. And, it's something, whether you're in Arizona or the United States Congress, it's nice to have a good, strong bipartisan majority, because what it means is if you're able to work with members of both parties, your work, if it makes it all the way into the United States Code or the Arizona revised statutes, it likely means it will last regardless of who's in power. And that's always something that's worth striving for. And I appreciated those comments in terms of Senator McSally's work across the aisle as well.
That's right. Also on the docket with the senator today, and this sort of moves us into topic 1.5 or 2, is the rollout of the next COVID relief package. We talked about it in broad strokes on last night's show. We have a little more detail today. Secretary Mnuchin back up on the Hill for meetings with Minority Leader Schumer and Speaker Pelosi. Glenn, what did Senator McSally have to say about the bill? What do you think about the bill?
Well, she said that she made it clear that this is not a final product, but she did a very good job of explaining what's in the bill and why it makes a lot of sense. I'll first say that we do need another bill. We still have millions of Americans out of work, tens of thousands of Arizonans out of work. Yes, the federal government has put in $3 trillion, and there's still tens of billions of dollars that haven't been expended. But there are certain areas, both in terms of dollars and policy, that are needed. Senator McSally honed in on one of those areas. It's not a federal appropriation, but it's a very important policy change, and that's liability reform. Right. And what I appreciated, we've been making the case for quite some time. And by the way, in Chamber Business News, the Honorable Eileen Klein has an excellent piece on why liability reform is so important. It's not just businesses, it's also nonprofits, K-12 schools, and universities. Yep. So I thought the senator did a very good job of making the case that we need some of these policy changes, in addition to more flexibility and some additional resources as we still work our way through the pandemic.
That's right. You mentioned that this is not the final product. We saw a few weeks ago when the House passed, Glenn, I think it was a $3.5 trillion package. We're now more in the $1 trillion zip code. Glenn, I guess the final product, it's going to be somewhere in the middle. We're currently at a $600 per week enhanced unemployment benefit with federal dollars. The bill rolled out today is at $200. I assume we'll be somewhere in the middle.
It probably will, but I do think that the Senate package, we are hurling towards $30 trillion debt. And, I do think at some point we need to be thinking about that. I mean, you take a look, gold, I'm not a trained economist, but you take a look at the price of gold hitting records, the U.S. dollar slipping. We do have to have some level of consciousness that this can't last forever. Now, with that said, I don't believe it would be advisable to pull the rug out from under some of these areas that are very important. There will be an enhanced unemployment benefit. I don't believe it's going to settle at the $600 federal top-up that for a number of workers across the United States has been a vital lifeline, but for many has been some significant percentage, not really in Arizona, but some of the other states, even twice as much. But we do need to have a continued increase in the unemployment insurance. I thought Governor Ducey's letter on this area was very, very thoughtful, that it should be, it should remain in the range of wage replacement. The extra dollars for K through 12 and universities will mean, regardless of where they land on, whether it's the House bill, the Senate bill, it's going to be tens of billions of additional resources. There will be extra resources that should be more than sufficient to deal with in-class learning as well as distance learning. The senator also talked about some of the other areas, more flexibility in terms of loan forgiveness for the Paycheck Protection Program. That program's helped 81,000 plus small businesses in Arizona to the tune of $8.5 billion. There'll be some extra resources and a focus on smaller business. So, Garrick, I think this final package, which will be the last one before the election, whatever comes out, will I do believe will be helpful, but it is important though for it to be for us. We are at the point where I do think we have to put a little bit more attention into the deficit and debt part of the equation.
With that in mind, a senator who sometimes zigs when others zag, Pat Toomey today told CNBC that he does not expect the big bipartisan kumbaya that we saw in the previous bills. And Glenn, he cited that issue over some of the concerns over just the size and scope of this bill. I think, Glenn, a bill gets done, but the margin might be tighter on this one.
I think it'll be tighter, but there's a few elements in it that I think are really interesting and important structurally. There is about $1 billion in there for all the states to update their unemployment insurance platforms. That we've talked about how important it is for some of the spending, at least have a Hoover Dam type situation where some of the stuff you're leaving behind can be helpful going forward. It looks like there'll be more in terms of that will help on distance learning, and also on the Paycheck Protection Program. And separately, there's a couple things that are important. I believe that the effort that Senator McSally's been working on to expand the Paycheck Protection Program's list of allowable expenses to personal protection equipment will be included. And it looks like there will be also a separate tax credit. And this is something I believe Senator Sinema has worked on. So I hope this survives bipartisan negotiation, a separate tax credit for PPE. The reason why that, in my opinion, is so important is that there was a great piece today in the Wall Street Journal where some of the top officials of the Federal Reserve are saying really the biggest economic bazooka we have at this point probably isn't the Fed. It probably isn't the United States Congress or the administration. It's you. It's me. It's citizens doing the simple things, wearing masks, socially distancing, proper hand hygiene, staying home when sick, and reminding our brothers and sisters when they're not abiding by the 3 or 4 things I mentioned. So that's going to become more and more important piece of this. We're not gonna, money can't buy you love, and money can't buy your way out of this pandemic, but good citizenry, good personal behavior can get us to the other side of this.
That's right. Well, speaking of good citizenry, that extends to the diamond as well. Yesterday, we talked about the COVID outbreak within the Florida Marlins. Today, Major League Baseball announcing that they're pressing pause on the Marlins season, which is not only news for that team, but also for that team's opponents. Glenn, is this a speed bump, or are we looking at the end of the season?
I'm certainly hoping it's a speed bump. And I'll first say that, we want all the baseball players are they're human beings. We want them to be safe and well. But we also want to create a dynamic, whether it's the Marlins or any profession, people can get out there safely and do what they love. I mean, I think a lot of people, we sometimes forget just the joys of working in an area that you enjoy. Most baseball players love what they do. What I hope, Garrick, is that they learn from the outbreak. I still don't have, I don't know if you've read, I still don't have a good sense. Was it, something where they, spent too much time in close quarters, or let's learn from that and apply those lessons to baseball, other sports, and even general life. So my guess, Garrick, is that this is a speed bump. There's a way, we know from some of the international leagues that have not bubbled up, there's a way to do this, and I hope that baseball can get this right.
Yeah, it's interesting the way that the fact that you're not having fans in the stands. One of the upsides of that is that if you have to move teams around from stadium to stadium, there's a little bit of a home field advantage, I suppose, but you're not going up against the opposition crowd. And so the Yankees apparently are stuck in Philly right now. They're going to send them down to Baltimore. So there are a few teams that are sort of marooned out there while they deal with this, but the league will move people around.
And Garrick, we've talked about this. No one has been perfect on this. We've all learned. We've learned in Arizona how important masks are. Take a look at our overall numbers and the trends; they're very encouraging. A big reason is masks, and I think this is one where instead of pointing fingers, let's learn from all these lessons.
Yeah.
But let's try to move forward. I do think that there's a way to do this. And, I'm not just saying this because, all right, I'll admit growing up in the Bronx, not growing up in the Bronx, being born in the Bronx, but being a Yankees fan, I have been hoping, and now I'm a D-backs fan. I just want to make that clear for the viewers, but I've been looking.
That'll be your National League team.
It's my National League team. And I've been predicting for a while that this could very well be a repeat of the 2001 World Series. And I really think you think about 9/11 and you think about the time we're in, there would be a lot of, there'd be something special if that were to occur. So what do you think, Eric? What's your feeling? Is the season going to continue? Are they going to pull the plug?
I think it will continue. Look, they have an expanded roster, so now teams are going to have to dip into those reserves. Now, Glenn, if it gets much broader than that and you're starting to infect the reserve players, then things get a lot more complicated. I guess we will just have to see. Look, I was thinking that we knew we were going to have positive cases. I didn't think it was going to be on day 4.
I didn't either. And, again, I just think that the fact that you have so many players and coaches, what happened there could be, it could be the type of thing that is that's useful to know for other cases. And I think, the way that Major League Baseball has done it with, I could be wrong, with that sort of that second team of 30 hanging in the wings. I'm reminded a little bit, doesn't completely line up, but at the cinematic masterpiece, The Replacements, starring the great Keanu Reeves, probably the most underrated actor of our generation. I think people want to see the games. I mean, it's a long, hot summer. There is a special place for baseball. Remember, was it Truman or is it Roosevelt who was president, who wanted to keep Major League Baseball going during World War II, and it did. So, I am a baseball romantic. So I think the most important thing is for the players to be safe. But I do think that there is a way, even with the traveling teams, to play this abbreviated special season. I'll just say, however it turns out, let's not, if it's not everyone playing 60 games, that's okay. Let's get as close as we can, and hopefully we could see the 16-team playoff format play out.
Yep. All right, before we close out, you haven't chimed in recently on Arizona infection rates. Just last week, I believe we were talking that the rates were coming down, the positive case numbers were coming down. You were a little concerned that we might be plateauing at too high a point. Glenn, is it my read right that the positive infection rate is coming down though?
It's coming down, and it seems that it's coming down pretty darn quickly. That R naught number of how much it's spreading is now, if it's not the lowest in the country, it's darn close to it. You know, the New York Times has this now as one of 3 or 4 states. There were a couple of days where we were the only states with cases declining.
Right.
But we have to keep at it. You know, school is going to start soon in some form. The universities are still on track to have some sort of in-person experience.
Yep.
If we let up on the gas, we will see a resurgence. It's that simple.
Yep.
If we keep the masks going, the social distancing, we remove unnecessary velocity, as painful as that is for a chamber guy to say, I believe we're going to be able to get through this until we have much better therapeutics and a vaccine. And I'm glad that we're taping this, and this will be somewhere in the library.
Yep.
But I would now put serious dollars that we will have a usable vaccine, and I'm talking with millions of doses for our frontline, our doctors, our nurses, frontline responders available by the end of this calendar year.
If he's lying, he's dying. His stone cold pick of the week. You heard it here.
I'm always going to bet on American ingenuity. And that's what's going on as we speak. 2 big clinical trials, stage 3, tens of thousands of people across America being tested. And all the indications that have leaked out are positive. We don't know, but it's not an unreasonable bet.
And I guess we should be encouraged by the fact that we don't get to a 30,000 person test if it weren't for the fact that there were such positive signs heading into this. So that's good.
As well as the testing just ramping up all across America, including here in Arizona. So we're going to have a much better sense on who has the disease, including those who have very modest symptoms or completely asymptomatic.
Right.
So there's a lot of things moving in the right direction. And, if Congress can continue to work, even if it's not a complete bipartisan kumbaya, they can continue to work together to bridge us so that, we don't lose any additional economic momentum. I do believe that 2021 could be a very special year in our country's history.
All right. Well, here's hoping that's a nice tease for a show we have coming up later this week that will look at testing. So looking forward to that. All right.
And in fact, for a later episode, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm booking a ticket somewhere January 2021. So stay tuned, folks.
There you have it. All right. Good. That sounds good. All right. Well, that's nice to end on a hopeful note. All right, Glenn, we'll see you on the next edition.
Okay. Thanks, Garrick.